different plants, different voices, and different ways of having conversations. It's time to get personal with plant medicine. Welcome to Getting Personal with Plant Medicine. I'm your host, Diana, and today we're doing something a little different. We are getting ready for our next in-person event on November 18th at Harford Haven Studio. So if you are in the Maryland area, or if you're close to Harford County, we invite you to come and join us and learn all about pets and plant medicine. We will have 2 experts featured who have been previous guests on the show. So to refamiliarize everyone with those experts, we've decided to put out a bonus episode featuring clips from their past appearances. First, we have Juliana Carella, who is the founder and CEO of Treatables. She came on earlier in the season, or rather last season, to discuss how CBD can impact your pet's health. So listen to a clip. And I think it's because they try to add too many products to the arsenal, it's too much. And also you have such a focus on helping the community. And the community, I mean, the people you're trying to help, meaning not people, animals. You're trying to help animals. That's your focus. And so to that point, let's talk about rescues and the intersection of treatables and animal rescues. How did that play a part into the creation of this company, and how does it continue to play a part?
Yeah, it's a great question, Diana. I mean, the reality is that rescue pets are obviously the most vulnerable, and they are the prime candidate for CBD, regimen in their lives because, I could just name 4 or 5 things right off the bat. You've got a lot of anxiety with rescue pets. CBD is incredible for all types of anxiety with pet care. You got a lot of elderly animals that are in shelters, have been rescues forever, still waiting to be adopted. A lot of them have all these other health problems, which actually keeps them from being adopted, which is very sad. We really love to work with rescues because not only do we want to get all the animals in their organization on a CBD product to help them, but also to take that same philosophy and educate the adoptive parent too, so that when that parent brings home that new pet, that they're continuing that care. Because CBD is phenomenal for anything that's going to cause anxiety in a pet. And anytime a rescue pet is adopted into a new home, there's that transition. There's a lot of anxiety there.
So much drama.
Yeah. And then you've got that new parent that has to go to work. So now you've got separation anxiety that they may not have had before when they were at the rescue, right? So that's another reason. And then you've got the other health problems, like maybe some of these pets have arthritis already and no one's ever treated it, or it was treated with pharmaceutical meds at the rescue, but now that adoptive parent has an opportunity to treat it more holistically with CBD. So there's just this whole myriad of reasons to give these products to rescue pets. And so we kind of caught on to that early on, and we've worked with hundreds and hundreds of rescues across the country. We provide our product at a discount. We do a lot of promoting of these different organizations through our social media channels. We've even done some co-branded products, for instance, with Villalobos Rescue Center. We've got a co-branded product with them that creates a donation every time people purchase that product. We send $1 back to Villalobos. So there's lots of partnerships that we maintain with these different organizations, again, because it's like the best population of animals to make sure, benefit from our products.
Yes. I know you're going to add to it, Diane.
She covered it.
Covered
it. That's all I was going to say.
I don't think people who aren't in the business of rescuing animals realize how traumatic it is for them. I actually heard on the news recently in Maryland, there was over 500 dogs being returned to the rescues within the last few months. And it's because so many people during the pandemic rescued or adopted an animal and they weren't really ready for the long term of it all. And especially with cats, I think dogs are a little bit more adaptable, but when it comes to cats, it really impacts their longevity and their just quality of life when they're rehomed. Every time they're rehomed, it takes years off of their life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know that you talk about this a lot, but can you tell us how CBD can impact a dog's personality?
Mm-hmm. That's another good question, and it's kind of where there's a little bit of confusion, I think, just in general, because the thing about our dog's personality, when a dog has like high anxiety, for instance, a lot of times, people are like thinking, oh, my dog is just naturally really hyper and anxious all the time, so I don't see why this would work. But then they give the product to that animal and they see a calming of their behavior and they're like, oh, maybe this is my animal's true personality. And it was like kind of masked in this like constant neurosis that goes on with this little chihuahua that's just constantly chasing its tail, like just one of the first testimonials that we got years and years ago was a situation like that, where the pet owners had this little chihuahua that had a lot of health problems, lots of anxiety, was chasing his tail all day long. And they just thought that was how this animal is. Like that dog was like that for so many years that they never thought it was an issue, that they got so used to it. Then they gave this animal our product, and the first thing that happened was he stopped chasing his tail around all day for the first time in years. And they were like, oh, so this is what my dog's true personality is. So when it comes to like anything related to anxiety and fear and that neuroses, you're going to see what look like personality changes after they have the product. Now, on the flip side of that, you've also got situations where CBD may not change that feature. Like if an animal has major aggression, in some cases, if that aggression is based in fear and anxiety, then the CBD product is going to help it. But in some cases, you just have this aggressive dog that could be considered a personality trait, but it's not necessarily going to be touched by CBD because that dog needs some training. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's another great benefit of CBD. When you have to go and do training with your dog, give the dog CBD before the training because it's going to calm their whole system down and make them more receptive to that learning process of training. So again, you've got another reason to give CBD to this pet, but don't expect that you've got this aggressive dog, you give them CBD and they're just going to stop being aggressive. That type of dog, we really think needs some training. Go ahead, Diane. I know you have stuff to add here.
No, this is great. I was just exactly what you just said. We actually had to say goodbye to another dog a few weeks ago. He was almost 8, but he was reactive. And I had been working with him for years, group training, everyday walks, everyday training. And then I put him on CBD about a year ago when I started working for treatables. And again, like Julianne said, sorry, there's not this like, oh, he's fixed, because he had underlying behavioral
much like
issues.
with people, right? With humans, you can't just take the dropper or the gummy and you're a new person.
It's like you got to go to therapy, you got to go to the gym, whatever the problem is. But I noticed a huge difference in his focus. And honestly, I loved, we had a whole web series called Neighborhood Watch. We'd look out the window and react to things. Like I love that part of his personality. But I was able to manage it more. Another great thing, which is not relating to personality, but he was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis about 6 months ago. He could not walk. I mean, I have videos that it was terrifying. He was walking around like all 4 of his legs, couldn't run, you touched his back and he would scream. And I probably tripled his CBD dosage back to normal.
Wow.
No, it didn't show up again.
Next, we have Dr. Robert Silver, who is the Chief Veterinary Officer of Real Mushrooms, and he discusses in this episode how functional mushrooms can impact your pets. First, can you talk about maybe 1 or 2 success stories that you have with the functional mushrooms and your clients? And secondly, how quickly do they adapt to the taste? I mean, what has that journey been like?
So speaking of lion's mane,
Yeah.
dogs as they get older, they get this sundowners thing, where they're kind of like a geriatric
That's where
senility.
mine is right now. Yes.
Veterinarians have a word for that. We call that canine cognitive disorder, or CCD. One of my products is targeted towards that. It won't be out for a while though. But lion's mane alone by itself could be very helpful for that condition. And there's an extract of a special antioxidant that's found in lion's mane and other mushrooms like oyster mushroom called ergothioneine. We call it ergo for short because it's a tongue twister. That also can help a lot with cognitive health. So, yeah, I mean, for instance, there was one patient who was older and had that cognitive thing, but also had the beginnings of what we call degenerative myelopathy, which is a lot like ALS in the dog, in that they start to get paralyzed as they get this autoimmune kind of problem that goes in their spinal cord. And so we were trying the lion's mane for that because that's even more serious. They can't get up and walk. And it didn't work that great for the degenerative myelopathy. It's a pretty tough cookie. But the dogs did start to find the dog door. They did start to find where their dog food bowl was. Things that, that we observe in dogs that have this kind of cognitive impairment. We started to see some improvement with that, and we tried a few other animals. And so we know that lion's mane can be very helpful for that. And ergo as being even more, ergo also being very good for that as well. So as far as the taste, we're kind of skipping to some more, how to do things. So I need to give a little basic information first about mushrooms in general. And mushrooms are very sturdy. They're great foods, by the way. They're good paleo foods. They're good keto foods. Very healthy. They're high in protein, very good quality protein. They're also high in fiber, but low in fat and low in carbohydrates. And the fiber that they contain is of two types. One is, but the fiber is what makes their cell wall so sturdy. I don't know if you've ever seen photos of a mushroom that's rising up, and it's so strong it's actually able to push a cement paver up. Just as one mushroom can push that cement paver up. I've seen some photos on Google that way. And the beta glucans are a form of undigestible fiber that is part of the fiber in the cell wall of the mushroom. And then there's something called chitin. And you're probably familiar with chitin if you've ever had crab or lobster, because that hard shell is made primarily of chitin. It's a very sturdy type of fiber. It's the second most common fiber after the cellulose that we find in plants. And so chitin itself gets degraded by the bacteria in the bowel into a form of glucosamine. So and that form of glucosamine works directly on the bowel to help improve bowel function. And the beta glucans also serve as food for the microbiome, as does the chitin. So we tend to see mushrooms having, in addition to the benefits we think of for cognition or immune system, that they also have this huge digestive benefit and this benefit for the microbiome, which we are now learning seems to be in charge of almost everything having to do with our health or with diseases. So when someone tells me that they want to give a fresh mushroom, like you are growing, probably you got those little cubes that have already inoculated and you just water it and watch the stuff come up. They're a lot of fun. They are. But the mushroom itself has so much fiber in it, as I mentioned, that that if you were to eat it raw, you would get almost no benefit from it. Mm-hmm. And in fact, some mushrooms have slightly toxic elements to them. Even our little white button mushrooms have something called agarotine in it, which can be mildly toxic or carcinogenic. It's destroyed by cooking. It's also destroyed by prolonged storage in a refrigerator over a week. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't worry about it. But, those little raw mushrooms you see on the salad bars, they really, they're more window dressing than actually something that's nutritious. So in order to make a mushroom be both nutritious and medicinally valuable, you have to cook it. And you need to cook it to break down that cell wall in order to release all of its good stuff. So when Real Mushrooms or parent company Namex takes their mushrooms and they dry them and then they powder them, they then take that powder and put it in water, and they do what's called a hot water extraction, which means that they heat it to 90 degrees centigrade. That's 100 degrees centigrade is boiling. So it's pretty hot, but it's not boiling, maybe 200 degrees, just about there, for 2 hours. That's a long time, and that breaks down completely. And then they're able to take that liquid and they can spray dry it, and they can separate the liquid out and concentrate it and make it really concentrated to go into little capsules, or they can keep it as a powder with all that good fiber in it, which is what I prefer in terms of the mushrooms the products I'm making for pets, because that fiber is so important for the microbiome. So when you get your lion's mane to be mature and harvested, then you're going to have to slice it up and you're going to have to cook it in order for your dog to eat it. And it might be too chewy for your dog. Then again, your dog might like it chewy. Picky dog, it's hard to say. Mouthfeel sometimes is more important than actual taste.
So we hope that you can join us at our event on November 18th in Bel Air, Maryland. There is no cost of admission, so you can either RSVP over Eventbrite or just show up. We'll have samples and raffle prizes, and I firmly believe everyone will learn something. So we hope to see you there. This podcast has been a product of Your Highness Media. Each episode is written, produced, and edited by Your Highness Media. Thank you for listening.